The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Earnestly podcast. I'm host Earnestly, coming to you on a late Friday night here in South Florida. On the line with me, of course, is old friend Pod, host of the Midnight podcast. Made a couple months ago on the pod. Matt McQueeny's on the show. What's up, Matt?
Ernest, how are you? Another semester down, and I'm ready to.
That's
do
right.
my, back to the podcasting.
That's right. Winter break is not just my little one. You are also on winter break as well from college.
44 days. I'm like
that
so
long?
excited for it. Yeah, it ends up just the way that things broke when my last final ended up being, and then when the next class starts, 44 days.
That's crazy.
You know, I could build like is it a Noah's Ark I could build in that amount of time? I forget which one was built in that amount. But I could build, if not a Noah's Ark, then a lot of podcasts, that's for sure.
Now, before we get started on the podcast, what is today's podcast? Who's presenting this podcast today? Presented by who, Matt?
This podcast is brought to you by Big League Pillows. You can go to bigleaguepillows.com, and you can either use offer code or promo code MIX-, or offer code, I think yours is Earnest, right?
Yeah, EARNEST. I almost asked. I almost told you to do Earnestly Speaking or do ES.
Yeah, well, no, you got the good Earnest. So yeah, we've had an unbelievable holiday season at Big League Pillows, and I think in the next couple of weeks we're going to be having a debriefing podcast between me and the founder of Big League Pillows.
Oh, really?
Just about how crazy this season was, including setting up a new factory in the middle of the holiday season because our original factory stopped producing.
Oh, really?
So that was that was interesting. So, but you will get your pillows if you buy them at bigleaguepillows.com. We'll make sure you get them.
Tell me, dude, like that's like a co-host role. Like, tell me the last time you ever heard a guest actually bring in the promo code on a podcast.
It's
funny.
Different. It's like it's guerrilla marketing. It's insurgency advertising.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. And you know, the big key is who has more affinity. Will it be your promo code or my promo code?
That's right.
Will it be MIX- or will it be Earnest?
And again,
bigleaguepillows.com. Either way, get your free shipping.
Yeah, again, EARNEST or MIX-. Either one works. That's fine. I shit you not. So you're on the road rush right now. But I actually want to get your thoughts on this is something you haven't discussed in a while. Actually, we haven't. You and I have not talked about Donald Trump in quite a while on either of our pods. He was impeached a couple days ago. I actually went through a whole soliloquy about my feelings on the whole situation on the last pod I did a little over 24 hours ago. I'm not gonna get my piece here because I did that yesterday. If you want to listen to that podcast, do so, please. But your thoughts on Trump impeachment and just everything around it now, and especially around the holidays and around election year too, especially. What are your thoughts on this?
Just you saying that the president was impeached 3 or 4 days ago is crazy. I'm completely dumbfounded, to be honest with you, about where things are right now. I think that the impeachment was completely warranted, and it doesn't mean it has to go through in the Senate, as it will not, as it sounds like. But at some point, if things that are done by a president go over a line, it's not for the president to tell us or for his followers, his handlers, his spokespeople. It's not for them to tell us what's over the line. This is being adjudicated in the Congress, and the House has said, yes, impeachment on 2 articles. The Senate will not. But the thing that's really driven me the most nuts is I just keep trying to get around. The reason I've stopped talking about this a lot is because it's so insane that what Donald Trump has done to my enjoyment of reading the news, he's completely firebombed it. He's been like, he's just interjected himself into my ability to read the news. I have read the news for a long time, and what he's doing is completely out of left field. It's completely for himself, based on narcissism, based on his own slights and people coming. Like, there's nothing he's doing for our country. Company, the right word, right?
I mean,
there's nothing he's doing for our country. If our interests happen to align in what works for him, then fine. But I saw this. I saw the meme he put up on his Twitter, where it was like, "Remember, they're coming for me. But if I weren't here, they'd be coming for you." No, they're not. I heard somebody say today. I think it was Mark Maron. He did a podcast with Alex Gibney, the great documentarian.
I saw that, yeah.
And it was so good. And Mark Maron was telling Gibney, he goes, "This has kind of bummed me out because I always thought there was a deep state. And obviously there's not a deep state because they would have taken care of this."
Oh, my God.
This is like, but what hit me was you're seeing the diehard Republican Party go to bat for him in a way that is so over the top. And I would hope that in a situation where there's a Democratic seat of power in the Senate, there is in the House right now, but if there was a Democratic president and that Democratic president did things like this, that crossed the line, that as a democracy, we have to address this. This is the job. And there's nothing that could be more naked than what we have seen here. I would hope that they would do the same thing. So it has nothing to do with partisanship for me. But the thing that hit me today, I was like, what the Democratic Party, Republican Party, what does it feel like they're doing? Because it feels like something. And what is the things we watch all the time? We watch these courtroom dramas. The Republican Party feels like a criminal defense attorney for Donald Trump, where you're making a case, you're saying it to a judge, you might not believe it, but what they always say is everybody is due judicial protection, or everyone is due their day in court, and that lawyers must step up. It's part of their judicial oath or whatever. And that's what it feels to me the Republican Party is doing. They're being his criminal defense attorneys. They are Johnny Cochran trying to flood the zone with things that are not the crime, but to try to muddy the waters to make you not believe in the whole system. And I don't mean to bring OJ into this, but I think many people believe that OJ did what he did, but that also what the defense, the case the defense made worked for the jury. And that's what it feels to me, which is, it sickens me because I wanted this to be the last bastion of truth in some capacity. I know we've had impeachments, but honestly, there's only been three in all of our time.
Yeah.
So I wanted this to be the last thing where people could still cross the aisle for this, but they can't even for this, but they can for whatever the new NAFTA is. But
right.
That's another thing. But that's what it feels to me. I don't want a criminal defense attorney for the president in Congress, in the Senate. Just judge this thing as neutral arbiters, and it's not going to happen. And that's what makes me the most sick. This is a courtroom drama, and all their language, when you look at it through that lens, all of their language makes sense. That's what they're doing. They're protecting their clients, their high-paying clients.
Basically, you're still in the same spot as you were 3 years ago when he was elected. Like I remember there was a podcast you did between 2016 and 2017, and even when he came on my show, and there was a sort of like I guess a depression, if you will, or sort of a just obsession with Trump, and then after a while, I think he stopped talking about Trump for a little while, and then I guess now we're back to this 3 years later, and it's still the same vibe, I guess, like 3 years later. Like, I don't know, man. The sickening part for me personally is like I'm not even like a Democrat or Republican. I'm an MPA. Everybody knows that already. Is what bothers me more? Forget Trump and what he's doing and all that. He hasn't changed who he is. So I'm not gonna sit and blame him for anything. It's the discourse that bothers me. It's like the discourse. Like as bad as 2016 was for us, for people in the political realm discussing this stuff, it's actually worse now than it was 3 years ago. And I never thought it would get to that point. I thought 2016 was the bottom. But here comes 2020. And I think 2020 is going to be 10 times worse than 2016. And that's with Hillary Clinton in the race. So
yeah,
I think we're in for a long year here. Matt, we're going to have impeachment proceedings in the Senate during an election year. That is insane to me.
Yeah, I think what shocked me the most about this period of time is that the Donald Trump presidency has gone basically how I thought it would. I thought he would reach this juncture much earlier. I thought that potentially the Mueller report would be the thing that would reach this a little earlier, but it didn't take very long in the grand scheme. But I'm most shocked because I knew this would happen, but I also thought that when the facts of the matter hit the ground, that people would turn. It doesn't feel to me like people have turned.
No, I said
he's never lost. He doesn't have a majority.
No,
but he's never lost that 38 to 42%, and that to me is very scary because there are news networks, there are media outlets who are also acting as criminal defense attorneys until Christianity Today or whatever today, which was, I guess, a big deal, but now it's not maybe. They're also acting as criminal defense attorneys in law journal format and in news. And so I don't know whether to be upset with the followers or whether to applaud them for staying so loyal to not see out of the bubble that they're in. We're all in some kind of bubble, but I'm going to opt for the bubble I'm in, which is reading as many things as I can from as many sources that I believe are not overly biased. And I think we've talked about this before. The news gathering parts of newspapers are not biased. They're not. If you want to read the editorials, if you want to watch news programs after 8 p.m., that's biased. But news during the middle of the day, newspapers outside of the editorial are not biased. They're sourced and reported. And people who follow the president and the outlets that he follows himself, even though he's the president and has access to all of the actual news, he still gets it from these outlets because he wants the fantasy thing. They are all following in lockstep to a degree that I am shocked that there has been no break-off. There's been more break-offs of ice sheets from climate change than there have of people leaving, seeing what's happening, and leaving this. Now, the only thing I can think is that there's almost a silent majority now of folks who are on the other side of Donald Trump, and that they're following these proceedings. They're seeing if some of these things will change the course of his presidency and end it sooner. But I think they're also ready and loaded for bear to vote in the opposite direction, because the one thing I can never forget is how much outspokenness there was from the opposition to Donald Trump in his first year to such a loud degree. Remember the women's marches, the million women's marches? There was so much outspokenness, and it's all gone. And I just think it's gone underground because most of us realize the long game, and that is that an election is what counts. And so I actually do believe that there's going to be a mass voting change in the next election, no matter what we hear about, it's just 3 states, it's this. I think that there's enough people, even in the different 3 states, where it could be I don't want to use the term a whitewash, obviously, but it could be a banner day for whoever wins. But there's been so many Democratic contenders that it's hard to congeal behind one of them yet. But I think that the debate the other night started to make some things come much clearer. And that is that, in my opinion, and I said this to you in text, Uncle Joe and Mayor Pete are kind of out front. And I think many of the competitors feel like Mayor Pete is more out front than even any of us imagine. and he did really well the other night taking on Fire. I love the whole I'm a gay dude in Mike Pence's Indiana. Like, that was fun. So all that said, I'm worried about the Trump thing, but I think the more you worry about it, the more it drives you crazy, and that we just have to be ready for Election Day. And I think there's a very large silent majority that is ready to pounce. And it has nothing to do with me being anti-Trump and anti-Trumper, even an anti-Republican. I'm not. Now, if Mitt Romney won a couple of years ago, would I have been against him? Possibly. But he wouldn't have done all this stuff to keep me being angry every day. A normal presidential candidate makes the presidency go into the background again. The presidency should be, in our view, in large signing ceremonies when citizens need to be mobilized by him or her, and in the lead up to an election. He or she should not be in our face every single day. We
need him in the background, man. We need him in the background again. Seriously.
Go in the background. Be like a background app refresh. I don't need to check ESPN all the time. It'll tell me when something big happens. I can't. This guy is in my face too much. It's like, and I'm not even looking for him, and he's in my face too much.
That's the worst part.
Just on the contact high, he's in my face too much. I need this to go away, and he is incapable of making it go away. He's incapable. His whole life is about.
What we said. Is what you and I said about a year ago when we were last on a podcast about. This is like around after the documentary on Netflix came out, that Donald Trump, say what you want, love or hate him, is probably the greatest brander in the history of America. Like, literally, he is the most important figure and has been for the last, you can argue, 5 years, from the minute he announced campaign for president in 2015 on an escalator. He has been the most important person, definitely in the country, and you can argue the world, in the last 5 years. Branding. Donald Trump's a genius.
He killed it.
He's a genius.
Yeah. He's not waiting for gatekeepers. He's going right to the people. And
the thing is, Matt, also too, I can understand the appeal to some degree. I can understand the appeal. I could, because he's different. He's not Obama. He's not Bush. He's not Clinton. He's not Reagan. He's not polished. People are tired of seeing things that are not relatable. And it's funny because as Donald Trump being a billionaire, whatever, how much he's worth now, I don't know how much he's worth in real life, but being this rich guy who's never had to worry about money in his entire life, somehow made himself relatable to, Bob and Harry and Joan. It's insane. It's the genius. You have to admire it, man. You have to admire it. You have to obviously support him or whatever, but I kind of admire that, dude. This guy somehow made himself relatable in a way. And by the way, this, we talk about how the elite and the rich and whatnot. He is that, and yet he somehow made people forget that for a good year campaigning on the ground, and even as president. It's insane to me, man, how people have really fallen for this.
He makes people who believe in what he's saying feel good about themselves. He's the prototypical con artist. He gets you to believe in yourself, but it believes in him, and that through him, you're the best version of yourself. I mean, look, these other competitors are not going into some of the same places he's going into. Dropping into Grand Rapids, Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan. He's always going to Harrisburg, PA. He's going to all of these professional wrestling stuff. Mm-hmm. He knows, he's very smart about who he needs to go after, who he needs to sell. Now, he always knew where to go for the money. These people aren't bringing money, but they're bringing votes. So he's going for where the best effect of a small amount of votes can be had. And he's doing it again and again and again. And it's genius. It's not following polls. It's not following anything else. You have money to spend, but he doesn't even need to spend it because he has so many followers on Twitter. social media, the intelligence of micro-targeting on Facebook, how little that is to spend. He knows how to do what the Russians were trying to do to us. And I think in the end, that's why they couldn't even find that he was colluding with the Russians. He and the Russians were just doing the same thing. Yeah. They were using micro-targeting to rile up bases of the United States that could change the outcomes of electoral colleges.
Yeah.
Who cares if someone got 3 or 4 million more votes? You only needed 70,000 more across 3 states.
Yep.
And he did that like a surgical strike, like a salesman going to get the money. It's why he ended up in Russia. It's why he ended up in many of these places, because they had the money, and American domestic lenders were not going to lend to him. And as a businessman, I'm fine with that, whatever, if you want to get in bed with that. But it's now running into many of these, like, 2-decade-long rules that we have about how you conduct yourself in government and as a president, and he's busting through like a bull in a china shop and then saying, so what? And I think the hardest part of this all is we know he's doing wrong and we know he's breaking through the rules, but we're allowing him to say, so what, and moving on. We're too nice. But I don't know what we're supposed to do, too, right? I mean, that's the hardest part. What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to, like, roll in and, you know, I mean, it's once you get to the president, you're untouchable. You literally are unimpeachable when you are the president.
Yeah.
It's the last job you can get that you almost can't be touched. In every other realm, you can be a senator even, and look how quickly you can get yourself out. You are unimpeachable, and yet he's been impeached, and yet he's flooded the zone so much that even you or I, who understand the news and read it all and understand the context, can hear what he's saying and go, wait, maybe he's right, because that's the ultimate con artist. He has completely done wrong here. There's a transcript that proves it, that they tried to hide even, because they knew it was so incriminating.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, he's able to come out of it and say, yeah, but nothing happened, but I gave them the money. He always pulls back from the crime at the right time, and he's also, Nixon at least at some point said, you know what, this is over the line, I'm going to resign. He will never resign, Donald Trump.
He's stubborn.
And so he's stubborn, and he likes being president. He doesn't like the work of it, but he likes being president.
Remember we thought when he got elected that he didn't want to be elected. We just did it for sort of branding purposes and part of his portfolio. I think now 3 years in, he enjoys being president. As you said, not necessarily the work and the nooks and crannies of it all, but in terms of just the attention it gives him and just the nature of being able to push back.
He likes the waiting hand on foot stuff. Like, he loves it. He loves hosting people. He loves getting his 2 scoops of ice cream while everyone else gets 1.
Yeah.
All that weird stuff he does. He loves it.
I'd give anything to be a fly on the wall for Donald Trump. I would give anything to be a fly on the wall in his life, honestly.
Well, we are. Just go to Twitter.
Well, I know,
but then watch the news at the same time. We are. That's all he's doing, dude. He's just sitting in his bathrobe, tweeting at the news.
Thank you. That was not a visual. Thank you very much. Now, you said that you are not that worried in a grand scheme because you think there's a silent majority on the other side of the fence. Now, as I said, on the last podcast I gave up my perspective on the whole situation. If you ask me gun in my head what's going to happen, I think he gets reelected, because I think the fact that those poll numbers are still in the low. Now, granted, it's still low 40s, but given all the chaos that's gone through the last 3 years, you would think his numbers would be in the low 30s or even the 20s, and yet it still feels like he's holding steady, and even in some cases gaining strength. You just saw a Democrat this week leave the party because he was against the proceedings of impeachment, and now went to the GOP. So there is, if he did that, the congressman did that, could you probably see more people also doing the same thing? And to boot, you have, okay, look, and obviously the economy is doing very well right now in the short term. Obviously, the economists have always said that it's a long-term problem. But in the short term, things are actually okay in the world. Like, the economy's doing very well. 401ks are up. we're at peace right now. There's no war. So the environment right now, at least from the optics point of view, aside from this stuff going on with impeachment and all the chaos, people see the world and think, well, it's not that bad, actually. And I think that helps them in next year or so.
Yeah, but a lot happens. A lot is still yet to happen. I think that there's going to be a slowdown for a bunch of reasons. One, the tax cuts just turned 2 years old, and the tax cuts did not mean a lot to you or I.
Right.
Well, I mean, I know you're like a multimillionaire, but
that's true. Yeah.
No, okay.
All the sponsors.
I mean, they did not mean a lot. They did not mean a lot to. They did not mean a lot to the normal people. And two, I really do believe there's a lot of indicators that tell me there is a blip coming. One, not big league pillows, but holiday sales were down quite a bit.
Okay.
Since November. Two, a really good point I was reading about, leading up to the election, when it's looking like the Democratic competitor is going neck and neck with Trump and would have a possibility of winning, the stock market is going to irrationally take that as a sign that the economy is headed for a bad place because maybe Elizabeth Warren's coming in, maybe someone's coming in who's going to raise the health care, and they're going to get scared to the economy. So there's actually going to be a bit of an artificial drop, especially if the Democrat starts going out ahead. And there have been polls that show that Biden is quite ahead of Trump, because that's why Trump was trying to work with Ukraine to get him in trouble, because Biden takes Trump on right in those major states. You know, Biden is a son of Scranton, PA, and he is a Midwestern. He will talk to those folks.
That's just it, though.
What could happen?
Right. That's just it, though. And I've said this for the last 6 months, for the last year. I'm still, like, I'm in a family full of Democrats. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm in a family full of Democrats that is in itself polarizing conversation, because you have right now you have members of my family who are rooting for Bloomberg to win the nomination. You have members of my family who at the time were rooting for Kamala Harris, now rooting for Liz Warren, some for Bernie Sanders. That sample alone is reflective of the overall Democratic Party. I've always said for the last 6 months to a year that Joe Biden's biggest challenge was not beating Trump, was actually winning the nomination, because the party itself is divided in a lot of ways. And the question is, if Joe Biden holds on to this lead in the polls he has now, wins the nomination, and is the Democratic nominee to face Trump this in 2020, will we have the same effect of Hillary, where people have stayed home, or where people actually will support Biden? Now, I think the latter will happen. I think the Biden will get the support because, number one, he's a lot more likable as a person, as a campaigner than Hillary Clinton. Say what you want about Biden's gas and whatnot, but Joe Biden has a lot more positive residue around him. You know, he was Obama's vice president. He's still fairly popular. You know, he's likable, and
he's been in Congress forever. Like,
right.
He's literally presided over 50 years of governing.
Right. So I think he's still the best option for Democrats to put up. But again, will Democrats follow his lead and follow that lead moving forward? Because remember, in 2016 they made that mistake, and it cost them dearly.
I think they will, because Trump can't run on what other people did anymore. He has to run on what he's done, and I do think when a Democrat is looking like they're going to go out ahead, and the polls are showing that, it's going to hurt the stock market, which is going to hurt Trump's main point. You know, and there's really so much he can do. Trump has nobody in his cabinet anymore, I think. I mean, this is historically insane.
He's had what, three speakers of the House? He's had what? He has had three speakers, right? Three. You know, you had Spicer. Then you had somebody. He had Sanders.
Kelly. And there was that too. Yeah, there was the communications director.
Right.
But remember, he loved the generals at one time. Now he hates the generals. You know, he's talking junk about John Dingell. You know, maybe he's in hell. Like, this guy just off his rocker. And I really do believe that we're discounting. I mean, we say it, but we're discounting how historically bad of a candidate Hillary Clinton was. Even though I'd love her to win, I thought her interview with Howard Stern was one of the best interviews with a politician I've
heard
ever
about
heard
that,
in my
actually.
life.
I heard about that through the Simmons-Closterman podcast, actually, a couple weeks ago.
2.5 hours she was in there. It was
really?
very
That
good.
long?
And it was so good. Yeah, she was in the studio for 2.5 hours. So good. And but she was historically bad against Trump, especially. And she was confident, overconfident, which she should have been. The polls said it. But I think the next run, nobody's taken for granted anything. My fear, and I've joked about this morbidly, Joe could do everything, and Trump's luck, Joe will get a heart attack a week before the poll.
Oh, don't say that.
Because the guy is old. No, I know. I don't want to say it, but I'm just. This is how Trump just.
He's what, 75?
The seas. Trump is going to be 70. Yeah, Trump will be 75, but Biden's like 78, right?
No, I thought the Biden's a little younger.
78.
Well, they're about the same age, though. Isn't Biden? I know Bernie's 78. I don't know if it's Biden is 78. Let me check that.
Wow.
Actually.
Well.
Yeah, let me check
Yeah,
that.
he's.
Because not to say that Trump is that young either. I mean, let's be real. I mean, I don't want to sound like ageist either. You know what I mean?
He's 77. Joe Biden will be 78.
He's 77.
Right after Election Day.
Right.
77. But you don't think of him like that, but 77. But yes, Trump is like 74 or something. So, and he's not exactly the beacon of health or the paragon of health, with his 3 Big Macs and his fish fillet and a malt shake. Like, I know things have gotten a little easier for him in there with the food.
By the way, speaking of Trump's Twitter, he just tweeted 9 minutes ago. When you heard what he said, he goes, tweeted, broke all-time stock market record again today. 135 times since my 2016 election win. Thank you. 9 minutes ago, Donald Trump. That's great.
Like, not for nothing, but like Battle Creek, Michigan cares about the stock market. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, that's the issue. He is like a con artist pulling any piece of information for him, and good for him. But it's sort of up to us to kind of. Honestly, man, it has nothing to do with Trump. I've said this. If Trump had just shut up after being elected, I don't even think I would be this visceral. He can't shut up. Well, and that's a problem to me.
Right. Well, here's a frustrating part of Donald Trump for me personally, is that he missed an opportunity here. Like, him being a maverick in the way that John McCain used to claim he was. Donald Trump had a chance really to appeal to moderates and even some Democrats, who were middle of the road. If Donald Trump had just went by the job of doing his job and not talking and not doing all the chaos, he probably could have won 2020 on a landslide. And now, he might win 2020 landslide anyway. We'll see. But Donald Trump missed the opportunity here to really appeal to the middle, because a lot of his style and how he speaks to people, how he made himself relatable to people that he had no business being relatable to, there's a lot of that on the Democratic side also, too, that also are frustrated with the Democratic, foundation as well, too. And he missed an opportunity to grab more of those on the left-hand side and instead cater to the evangelical side, which is a lot smaller than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of signs that point towards a change here. We forget about the historic changeover in the House, mm-hmm. which was total. I mean, that was as big a takeover as you can have. Wasn't it the most in history, possibly?
It was close to it. I know that for a fact. It was in the conversation.
Yeah, and the Senate is just a harder crack because there's so few, and smaller states have as many senators as big states.
But they lost. They lost seats. They did lose seats, though. They didn't gain any seats, did they? Or they lost seats. They lost some seats, didn't they? Senate.
Yeah,
not much, but
they didn't lose enough for the majority.
Right, they lost seats though.
But that's the other thing. There's a lot of taking for granted in his bluster that, oh no, those next seats up won't lose because they're firmly Republican and Trump country. Trump country. Like come on. And so who's to say that doesn't continue and change? people, like, I honestly believe people are disgusted, and that a lot of people are doing what I'm doing, which is turning off. But, like, when you turn off and then something still gets up in your face, that's when it hits you even more. You know, like, you turn it off and it's like, I stop following Trump, I block him. And then all of a sudden, the entire conversation in Twitter is something he said, and you're like, well, I got to go see what he said now. This is insane.
The problem for me,
and then you
right?
Sarah, yeah.
The problem for me, more than anything else, is I work at a job where there's many employees and even more customers, and it is a topic of conversation every day. People I deal to, poker, every day, they'll always talk about this. There's one table that I deal to every morning that of guys that are 55 and older. And granted, they don't like Trump at all. But it's a conversation. Every time I talk about it, the word impeachment comes up. It's a conversation. Then you have people who love Trump in my establishment. It is a divided situation. You cannot escape it at all. Also, forget, my job is literally 10 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. You know what I'm saying? Literally 5 minutes from Mar-a-Lago. I'm in Palm Beach County. I'm in the center of Palm Beach County. So
I know.
I'm in the shit.
I mean, and this is my stand. Without, I am not reading anti-Trump. I am trying not to read about Trump. But this is my gut, and maybe my gut is biased, but I try not to be. I just took a whole class that taught me to notice bias and to not do it.
You know what I did,
I'm pretty sure I'm not biased.
I'm the same way. You know what I did actually, too? Because knowing that I'm going to get much more obsessed with the situation in the coming months, because, obviously the primaries are around the corner, caucus season's around the corner, and then, of course, general election 6 months away, a whole year away. But 2020 obviously is going to be the kick-up of the election year. So I made sure that I didn't get too burnt out on the Trump stuff this year, knowing that I'm going to save that bandwidth for next year when I need to, and not get burnt out on.
Yeah, and then, at the end of the day, no matter how much we read, we're still just one vote, and that's the hardest.
That's true. But
I guess all the people who listen, maybe they can hear, and they tell 2 people, and they tell 3 people, like the Wayne's World skit.
That's true.
But
yeah.
I think that it's important to understand that what I hear from the side who's defending Trump, I don't feel the same way they feel, but just coming from the other end. I am not behind anyone in particular.
Right.
I am just it couldn't be any clearer to me that he is not right for this. And he wouldn't trip up with any of this if he didn't do it.
Yeah.
He just had to not do this. He just had to not have Rudy Giuliani globetrotting around the world trying to get Ukrainians. They didn't even want them to investigate. They just wanted them to say on CNN that they were going to investigate. This is insane.
This is not normal.
They didn't want them to investigate. Just get the prosecutor general on there just to say he's going to investigate the Bidens and we're good. That's it.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. Do they realize that if the prosecutor general actually went on and did that, people would be like, what the F? And then they would look into it immediately because it would be a big story and be like, oh, there's really nothing here. And it would be in trouble then, too. How did he not see this? I just, it's all just so... It's loony bin stuff here.
Well,
it's Florida man stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. This is how big this topic is. We've now recorded 39 minutes of this podcast, and about 35 of it was dedicated to Donald Trump. That's how good he is. So let's turn the page to something else. The New York Giants.
I wouldn't say he's that good. I would before you jump there. I wouldn't say he's that good. I think we're holding it in. We're holding it in. We could talk about him every week. But we're holding
every
it
week,
in.
that'd be a little. Every week would be nice, but he's every day in my life, no matter what. It's cuz,
I know he's always there. Now now a group who's not in our life every day because they stink. Go ahead, the New York Giants.
3-11. I mean, we haven't spoken since the preseason and the Daniel Jones experiment, which we thought would have happened week 8, week 9, happened week 3. Won his first 2 games. Then the team went on a big losing streak. I think it was 10 games, I believe. Something like that. Something of that nature. Eli returned recently. Now he's back on the bench because Daniel Jones is back this week against the Redskins. It's just so weird. Like, we started this decade with the Giants, 2011 season, winning a Super Bowl for the second time against the Patriots in 4 years. Okay? And ever since then, now granted, the next season after that, it went 9-7, missed the playoffs. But every season since, outside 2016, going 11-5, which is, as I told you that 3 years ago, was that was fake. That was not real. I thought the team was overrated. It's been a horrible decade for the Giants.
Yeah, it's been terrible. At least they won, though. I was listening about they are the Browns. I mean, what was it? They played the Dolphins, right? And I was like, oh my God, the Giants have like the same record. The Giants had to win to get the same record as the Dolphins, and people have been laughing at the Dolphins the whole season. And the Giants ended up here after being 2-2. They're awful, and you know what? The Yankees too. They haven't won in this. They didn't win this decade either, because their last one was right at the end of the last one.
But at least they're a playoff team, though.
And I'm not being a fan. Yeah, absolutely, and not being a fan. But the Giants, they're in a weird spot because I couldn't be any happier that Eli got the chance to go out winning in front of the home crowd and to play the Eagles really well. It was nice. It was just great to see that. It was great to see the suite filled up with his family again, because I had read that his wife and I think it's 4 kids now, they would always be in the suite, and then they would meet him in the tunnel after the game. But that when he stopped being the starter, they stopped coming to the games, and that was like weirdly sad to me as a dad. And so it was great to see the whole family back in the suite for one more game, getting to go out on their own terms. How crazy is it Tom Coughlin fired, was it today, too?
Yeah, 2 days ago, yeah. That was weird.
Weird. So weird. He went back to his old ways, it seems like. He got too disciplined. But I don't know what to think about the Giants other than until they have a good defense again, I can't take it seriously. Because, remember, we won the 2 Super Bowls. We want to give Eli so much credit. He was unbelievable when it mattered. But what were those scores, 21-17 and 17-14?
Correct.
Those are, that's a great defense against a great offense. And so Daniel Jones showed you he could put up 4 touchdowns in games, but it almost felt like fake, like sugar high, right? It was like he has the sort of video game ability to run and to throw and to do it all, but it's like not as stable as Eli. Like, he's young, though. He could use a little bit of Eli. The other thing that has just blown my mind, Saquon Barkley doesn't matter. Like, what the hell happened to Saquon Barkley?
Oh, my God,
the guy was the most electric. He was one of the most electric college football players I've ever seen. And I didn't think electricity could be knocked out like by a transformer like this. The guy has lost his ability to play football, it seems like. I know he had a weird fake 100-yard game last game, but he is not a game changer in any way in the NFL yet. He had a couple of those plays last year, but it's in no way, there's no continuity to it. It's not down by down, getting you, like, it's not getting you 3 or 4 yards on any carry. It's getting you, like, 70 yards on one carry and then 10 on the other 15 carries.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. And he's not, from what I hear, he's not really picking up the blocking assignments. And I thought he was going to be the most no-doubt player they would have. And they put a damn high pick on him. I'm in shock. And then all of a sudden, when the Giants are good, he's going to be like when the Vikings got good. You're like, oh, my God, Adrian Peterson's 29 already? Saquon Barkley's going to be old before you know it. And you have wasted a running back. Like, I don't understand me how much of not a game changer he's been. That Daniel Jones was the game changer. So I think they got to get a defensive player. Maybe they could get this Chase Young out of Ohio
I'm praying
State
to God, man.
If their pick is bad enough. That would be great because so many other teams are looking for quarterbacks at that level that maybe a guy like that could find his way. They have to start getting game-changing defenders. They have to get rid of Shermer It's like one of those things.
I was going to ask you about that, Shermer.
Hugh Jackson thing.
Yeah.
It's like the Hugh Jackson thing. Stop talking to me, Hugh Jackson. You're 0 and 32. Stop talking to me. I'm sorry, dude. It's not working.
I was never a high of the Sherman. I was never a fan of the Sherman hire from day one. I never liked it.
It's felt like a Hugh Jackson hire. You get the hotshot offensive coordinator, put him in the hot seat, a former head coach, and he is not a leader of men. I love saying that like I'm a football guy. A leader of men. He is not a leader.
No.
I was did you watch the Saban Belichick documentary on HBO?
Not yet, but plans this weekend.
It just came out. It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. That's what you need. Somebody who thinks football at those kind of levels. Not that like the zenith like that. But what I want to do, go get Matt Rule out of Baylor after the Jets failed last year because they had too many little rules. That guy freaking wins. That guy won at Temple. He rolls into Baylor, and within 2 years, he already had them on the precipice of the college football playoff.
Yeah.
That guy, he was in the system with the Giants, I think. I think he was with the Jets, too. He was a Parcells guy, I believe. Get that guy in here. That is a winner. And you need someone who's going to take people on and who's going to mentor and not be so damn sensitive. Pat Shurmur is so sensitive. It's like Trumpian how sensitive he is, but he doesn't even have Trump's success.
Wow, did you say that? Did you say that? Trump's success?
2 years ago. Trump would have been fired as a head coach 2 years ago because in sports you actually have results that are, transparent and clear. But Shermer's just been horrendous. Same thing with the Jets. Gase hasn't been much to write home about either. I mean, you could have told me that. But, I can't even tell you who the Giants' coaching staff is. I can't tell you who half their players are. They don't matter. The Giants need to matter again to where I, know who their personnel are. I don't know who anybody involved with the Giants is anymore.
No, I don't either.
Because they think so bad. I know Daniel Jones. I know Slayton because my neighbor was like, should I draft him in daily fantasy? I was like, yeah. I hear his name sometimes. But the Giants, they're just devoid. They're devoid of talent. It's insane. And it's so I don't know. I don't know. It could start with Chase Young. It could start with and I don't know if I trust Gettleman bringing these people in. It makes you learn. It makes you yearn for Jerry Reese. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah. Do you think
they need to get someone in?
Do you think Sherman gets fired? Do you think they will fire him?
Yeah, I think without a doubt.
They have to. They have to.
This has gone too bad. It's become a public relations nightmare. It's not quite to the level of who was our last guy? Ted McAdoo. It's not quite to his level. That guy got 11-win season and was fired after 2 years.
Yeah, that's true.
Shermer was lucky in that he had Eli 2 years after that happened, but not working. And you're hearing the weird stuff with the two ownerships group now getting in each other's business between the business and the football operations. People are not happy. The New York Giants can't lose like this. It's getting to be like a mockery. And they need to get somebody in who understands personnel and is just like, let's understand who the players who are secondary stars on certain teams, but we can max them out and they're ready to be stars. The Jacksonville Jaguars actually seem to sign a lot of those kind of guys before their big season. They had gotten the Calais Campbell and the Malik Jackson at one point, and they just seem to get the player who's a little underappreciated or behind a few great players and the other team is that and brings them here, and they're good. And I thought the Giants did that season when they got Olivier Vernon. But it's hilarious. They pretty much just moved their impact player from the Giants to the Browns, and the Browns were like, yeah, we're going to be an 11-win team. And I was like, yeah, no, you're not, because your main pass rusher is Olivier Vernon, and your main wide receiver is Odell Beckham. You guys are the Giants. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's like, and so it's not a surprise.
This is so sad because look, since 2011, when the Super Bowl, This is the record for the New York Giants: 9-7, 7-9, 6-10, 6-10, 11-5 wild card round, 3-13, 5-11, and currently 3-11. Could be 3-13. Who only knows? I mean, that is not the Giants I've known for 20-something years. I've watched over nearly 30 years. That is not.
No, you're allowed to be bad. You're allowed to be bad.
Not for this long. Not for this long.
Yeah. No, you can't. You're not allowed. You're just not allowed. And there's no reason. I'm sorry. In football, there's no reason to be bad for long.
Yeah.
If you're smart at all, it's so easy to be good in football. Like every other year, it's easy. Your cap space opens up. You go and get the best players on the market. You win that year. Right. Now maybe those players drop off the year after. So what? Then the next year you load back up again. But you always got to have a quarterback, and that's part of the problem. But now you're starting to wonder, was Eli really that bad? I think Eli was definitely on the descent. But you're seeing like Odell now with the hotshot Baker Mayfield and all these weapons. Odell has just been completely useless.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, it's shocking how much of a non-factor he is. And it's almost like maybe him and Saquon were so upset about the breakup between them on the same team that they both they couldn't even go on.
Well,
but maybe Eli knew how to maximize. That's the thing I always say with Eli. He always maximized wide receivers to make them better than we thought they were.
Plax,
he made them Denny. Yeah, Hakeem Nicks. I mean,
with the Cruz.
Victor Cruz, Steve Smith, Manningham. All these guys were like, oh, look at all the Giants' weapons. No. Eli was a tremendous point guard as a quarterback. He got guys the ball where they needed it, and he spread the field with all kinds of receivers. You know, they never really, none of those players went on to do anything. And the most shocking one is that Odell's gone on and he's not doing anything, and he's like the best wide receiver in the game, we thought. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is crazy, man. Like, this is crazy. I mean, like you said, Plaxico came in, and look how great Eli was with a known quantity. I mean, look how good he's been with, like, Golden Tate in limited time. Look, the record is what it says. Like Bill Parcells always said. How did we do? Look at our record. That's what it is. That's it, and that's true. But it's hard to judge when you're not winning, because like we're all guessing. We don't know football like this. Like when people are playing 11 on 11, and we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, you know what? It's between the 2 and 3 gap. But when you win, you know. When you lose and you're close and you're making a fight of it, like up until this year, the way like San Diego plays, where they're always fighting back in games, you feel a little better about that, even though you lose. But when a team goes bad, like you look at the Rams, when it just goes bad and it's over like that quickly, there's a systemic problem. The Giants have a systemic problem, but they've tried subbing in and out all of the different elements. When you think of head of operations, when you think of head coach, when you think of quarterback, and those are the 3 main ones you change. And none of those have seemed to work yet. I mean, I think Daniel Jones is going to be really good.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think. But they're trying to sub out all the elements, and it becomes musical chairs, because now it's like, okay, do we get rid of Gettleman and Shermer? Do we allow Gettleman to hire coach? What if Gettleman hires Ron Rivera, by the way? Because didn't he do that in Carolina?
Well, what would be against it, though?
That's an interesting.
Better than Shermer.
That's an interesting one. A lot of people seem to like. Yeah, a lot of people like to seem to play with him. I'm just, what it comes down to for me, I'm not a fan of hiring a head coach who's an offensive mind, because I think if you have the quarterback, he'll take care of that.
Yeah.
And you have the offense, they'll take care of it. I want the defensive-minded coach. It always works out when it's the defensive-minded coach with the quarterback who's the coach on the field. Because, like, when you watch this Belichick-Saban documentary, when you see the way Belichick and Brady watch film together, it ends up being extremely useful for the two of them, because Belichick is helping Brady identify defensive things he sees, And then Brady is helping feedback on the offense. And then they showed video of Saban doing the same thing with Tua. And I just think that's the right partnership. You have to have the great quarterback. I mean, look at all of how down a lot of the league has gone right now with the offensive mind who's brought in to fix the quarterback. Like you look at Nagy with Trubisky. You look at where the Rams have sort of fallen off weirdly. There's nowhere else to go. At least when the head coach is a defensive guy, he can kind of move on to his realm, and it's not so stark when you're like with just the quarterback and everything's going wrong. And what is Sean McVay supposed to do when everything's going wrong with the quarterback? He can't just be like, Wade, the drills with the defense right now. You know what I mean? Like, he can't go somewhere else.
Right.
When you're a defensive coach, you run the defense and then you check in with the quarterback. And so you look around the league, a lot of those partnerships are not going amazingly well this year. I do have to say the Peyton and Drew Brees one always goes well, but mostly it's like, I mean, look at the Cowboys, right? Isn't Jason Garrett? It was funny watching him on that. He was on Nick Saban's staff when he was on Miami.
Oh,
You
wow.
probably remember that, but he was the offensive coordinator on Nick Saban's Miami. Yeah, like they showed him there because I'm like, why is he in this documentary? Oh, okay. But, you know, again, the offensive coach with the quarterback. Like when you have an offensive head coach, the quarterback, like the offense goes wrong, you're screwed. You have no diversification.
Mm-hmm.
When it's defense, you always can fall back on the defense because your defense can still win, and then the quarterback is somebody else's problem.
Yeah. Where are you on the Eli Manning Hall of Fame discussion? What's that you fall on?
I think his numbers plus the two Super Bowl MVPs as well, I think that makes him a Hall of Famer. The numbers are just not going to lie. He had a lot of tremendous seasons, and I think you're going to have to look back. And when we see the way all of these offensive players he played with, where they end up or don't end up, I think it's going to only strengthen his case. It's going to show that he didn't actually play with a lot of Hall of Famers. Tiki Barber might be a Hall of Famer, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Might.
But I don't think Plaxico would be. He had if he had longevity a little more with it, he probably had that level. But I think Eli's a Hall of Famer. Like, how could you come out of you? I feel like you have to come out of they weren't a dynasty, but they mattered like intensely during an era. When you have a team who's like put up 2 championships, I feel like you have to come out of that with at least one Hall of Famer on the defensive and one Hall of Famer on the offensive side, right? I mean, you kind of have to.
No, I'm with you.
And I guess Strahan, he wasn't on both teams, but he would have to be the Hall of Famer there.
Yeah.
And then
that's it, really.
I wonder if Justin Tuck.
No,
if Justin Tuck would not be.
No, unfortunately.
Probably one of these defensive guys or something who I'm not even thinking of. But
no,
I think it would be like.
There's no one else I would consider Hall of Famer. Antonio Pierce, no. Osi Minura, I love him to death, but no. No. Strahan's the only one you can say that he played with as a Hall of Famer. And maybe Odell, if he ends his career well, that's it.
Yeah, so I just think from that point of view, from that base point of view, Eli's a Hall of Famer. When you're going to go back over an error, we're going to lose the context of the moment. And to be honest, we were always very clear on the context of the moment watching him.
Yeah.
Look, we had him. He never missed a game by his own doing. And he's a victim of that. He's a victim of never really seeing him go away and then come back. And this year we saw him go away and come back, and we were happy to see him come back, even at 38 or whatever.
Yeah.
I felt comfortable with him back.
Yeah, I did.
And so, a part of me is like, does he think about, because I've read he really wants to stay living in Summit, New Jersey. Like, this is going to be his home, almost like his dad just, like, stayed in New Orleans.
I think he retires.
So
I think he's retiring.
But, like, what if for the right price, He's like, yeah, I'll stick around as the backup quarterback.
And so be it. That's fine.
I mean, right? I mean, I keep thinking that maybe he would do that. I think he likes leaving his house in the morning, watching tape, going home at the end of the day, and playing with his kids. Like,
yeah.
You know, I could almost see him just do the backup thing for a couple of years if he's willing to do it, and the Giants are willing to go that way. And if he's going to make like maybe a couple $1 million a year.
Not a bad option for him too. I mean, that's not a bad job to have either. I mean, just saying.
No, good coach on the staff. It keeps continuity if the coaching staff changes.
Mm-hmm.
He'd have to be willing to do it.
Yeah, of course.
He hasn't taken badly to this. It feels like. I mean, he sort of has been okay. Like, I've been watching like the Tennessee games. They never show Marcus Mariota. Isn't that weird?
No. But it's weird. But no, they don't. It's a little bit of a shock, I guess.
Yeah, but they never show him. It's like a very strange thing. Like he's there. He's on the sideline. He was like their number one pick. You never. I mean, just by the rules of television, if Tannehill throws a ball over or sails a ball over a wide receiver's head, the rules of television are like, show the coach, show the quarterback who was in that position before.
Yeah.
They never show him, and it's like strange to that fact. I almost want to do a whole bit on this part.
What's that?
And I probably will at some point. With the showing of the camera and what they show during the games, like watching the Cowboys, right? And
yeah.
You're seeing Jerry Jones' box every 3 plays.
Always clapping.
And then I was like, or angry or eating popcorn, slapping, like we're seeing his box every 3 plays. And I was like, imagine if, like, I was thinking from the point of view of Jason Garrett. Can you imagine in your job if during your whole day at your job there was a camera into your boss's office, and every time you did something, the camera panned to the boss's office, and they're like getting angry at an email or like,
you know what though?
They're in the
you know what though, Matt?
You
know what though? I can't feel sorry for him, for Garrett. You know why? Because he's had some really good job security. He should have been fired 5 years ago. The fact he's still the Cowboys coach, almost 10 years later, speaks volumes. He has good job security. Has had good job security for a long time.
I've always, my point with Garrett, he's the most impressive Hard Knocks / whatever the Amazon All or Nothing.
Yeah.
He's the most impressive behind the documentary scenes coach I've seen in the whole history of this show. And so I think just because he's a tremendous CEO on TV, I think it's hard to fire him because that man controlled stuff. I watch all the other Hard Knocks, all the other All or Nothings. I still have to finish the one with Ron Rivera, the newest one with the Carolina Panthers from last year, because I want to see how that works out. But it comes through. They don't hold back in that show. It's like The Office. They let you see the mockumentary moments. And I'll tell you, we all knew Hugh Jackson was getting fired from Hard Knocks. We all knew back in the day Dave Campo was getting fired. We saw him with the Cowboys.
Dave Campo. Oh, my God.
Jason, I think he still is the offensive line coach.
Oh, really?
Dallas. No, I mean, I've seen him. He's like, the only guy who's like, yeah, I'll take whatever job you want to give me. But Garrett is in control, and that counts for a lot. It's like the same reason we take it back to Trump. People feel like he's in control, even if he's not, and they're afraid to lose the illusion of control for progress. And that's what's happening here. He is so good at playing the coach on TV that you're afraid to lose that and take a step back. And you made the wrong call. And so you end up opting. It's like in business. This happens all the time. The person who plays being a CEO well tends to stay. And the market tends to like it because he looks like he's in control or she looks like they're in control. And so it's this weird cycle. And look, he's probably going to make the playoffs this year. After all is said and said.
Well, he better be. Yeah.
You know, and he can we say he hasn't been good for Dak? None of us thought Dak was going to be a good NFL quarterback, really. And I'm not saying I'm going to give him credit, but he's the man in control. And I watch those all or nothings, and he's doing all the drills with Dak personally. So it's hard to say. It's hard to say. You never know when you're not winning completely. You never know where to put blame in football. It's too hard. Every other sport, you're like, oh, this guy didn't get back on defense in basketball. Oh, this guy missed a shot. Football's hard.
It is.
It's like it's an army of men running into each other, and you're trying to watch it. It's hard.
Yeah. Now, before I let you go, I listen to your podcast all the time anyway, but you had mentioned about a couple episodes back about how the NBA season has not really grabbed you much this year. And it's kind of shocking because a lot of moves are made during the offseason. A lot of interesting storylines as the year started, quarter of the way in. And yet you are not plugged in. At least don't feel plugged in. What's going on?
To me, I just keep coming back to the fact that the NBA broke for me this offseason. I like change. I like storylines, but this was too much. This was overwhelming. And you get to the point where what does the name of a team, the location of a team even matter anymore? This is like, hey, let's go to the pickup game and let's put our team together. Let's keep winning and we'll play 8 straight games. Oh, we lost the game. All right, who's the next 4? Okay, you haven't played. All right, we're the next group. Nice to meet you, man. It's just too pickup for me. It got crazy this offseason. It broke. You know, I was very sore. I've said it a million times about Kawhi leaving Toronto. He's allowed to leave. I get it. But I felt terrible about that. I thought that was a magical team. Now, Kawhi has always proved he's the magical element. He's the thing that makes – he's the Reggie Jackson straw that stirs the drink. Wherever he goes, you get 60 wins, as long as he's going to play 60 games.
Right.
But so he wins. And that was my one concern with the Raptors when they were playing so well last year. I was like, well, first off, Kawhi has missed like 30% of the games. And second off, he's always been on 60-win teams. So what does it matter that he's on a 60-win team in this new place,
right,
in this cold climate? But I thought the way it went, it just hurt that he left. Then he stole another player from another team, broke that team apart. Now Russell Westbrook's out of that team. He goes to Houston, who I never love watching anyway.
Yeah.
You know, LeBron leaves Cleveland, which I loved him in Cleveland. He's allowed to leave again. They're allowed to do this. I'm just saying it's bad for me for the continuity of the league. He goes to the Lakers. I'm almost rooting for what happened last year when it went bad. Then he finds a way to steal with his, with Maverick Carter. They find a way to steal Anthony Davis out of there to go to the Lakers. It's just like the whole thing is a mess. And, you know, like I've said, I don't love – and look how the Nets are playing without Kyrie or Kevin Durant. They're playing pretty nicely.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in love when I see Kyrie on the team. And even when I see Durant, I know what I'm going to get. He's going to be tremendous. But it feels like the Nets feel like blue chips to me. It's like Nick Nolte went out and bought Kevin Durant's family a house, got them a car, gave them $100,000. And yeah, of course they're going to win. They got the best players, but I don't know. I don't love it. I hated the way, I mean, it was to your team's benefit, but I hated the way Jimmy Butler left Philly. I thought that was like a nice team. The way Boston, they got the graduate transfer and Kemba Walker coming there and replacing the guy who transferred to another school and Kyrie Irving. It's wildly too much. And then, like, Milwaukee's playing great. Sure, I was into that game yesterday. But with Milwaukee, we're waiting for the postseason.
Yeah.
So that's up for grabs. I don't love Indiana as a team. Like, Victor Oladipo will come back. That's great. Brogdon's been great, whatever. Look up and down the league. Like, Zion's not playing. The rookies have not made a huge deal. I do like John Morant, and he almost Frederick Weiss. Kevin Love tonight I saw.
Oh yeah, almost got destroyed.
But, oh my God!
I saw the play.
It's like, I got the league pass and I see all the little TVs, and I never know what game to watch. Like, you have to know too much. It feels like hockey to me now. I watch the NBA intensely, and I feel like the whole league turned over overnight. And I don't even remember what to watch, who's in, who's out, who's hot. And I guess people would say that's how it's always been, but continuity and narratives that bridge seasons are very important. And I was making the point that, like, the last 6 NBA champions fell off a cliff. The Warriors completely fell off a cliff this year. That's not the fault of the NBA. There was a lot of injuries, things like that. They fell off a cliff. But Steph getting hurt, now Steph ending the decade with his junk out there on Twitter. Like, what the hell's going on? With him getting hacked, like, what the hell's going on?
It's crazy as shit, I'm telling you.
And then it's crazy, but there's too much change for people to follow, even a diehard to follow. Diehards like change. Normal people don't like this much change. It loses it feels like, you ever check in with hockey once in a while just because you're like, I used to kind of like hockey.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going on. Who the hell's coaching? Wait, didn't that guy coach the Devils? Like, what players matter? Who are even the best players? Wait, Ovechkin's like 35, right? Like, there's player movement all the time. You lose track of what matters. And it's
and the thing is, too, Matt, the thing is also, we thought we wanted this, and then we got it, and like, oh, wait, this is too much.
Totally. It's way too much. It's just, it broke. Like, I am a fan of the league, but who the hell cares if this makeshift Clippers team, which is tremendous, but if this makeshift Clippers team takes on this makeshift Lakers team in the conference finals, what the hell does that mean? It's an all-star game. It's not these teams were put together. The main players played like 50% of the season because they're on load management, probably. We know what we're going to get. I don't know. I don't get a good feeling. I really don't. I think what needs to happen is Seattle needs to get a franchise. And how many teams would we be at then? We would need 2 more to be even still, right?
3. We need 2 more.
So Seattle needs to get a franchise. Maybe Seattle, and then maybe, I don't know, we give Vancouver another shot, or if we give, I don't know, what market is really missing a team? I mean, the NBA
Seattle's one, definitely. Damn. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA is pretty good. Like, yeah, it's tough. But maybe there's one more. I mean, it would almost have to be. It would almost have to be like Vancouver.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably,
the NBA is pretty, or Pittsburgh or something, you know.
Yeah, some of it. Well, St. Louis maybe.
I wondered why Pittsburgh didn't have a, or St. Louis, right? Although they got that deal figured out, right, with the St. Louis Spirit or whatever. I think they signed because no one was able to go in there because of that rule from the ABA. But I think that deal was just closed out. So yeah, maybe like St. Louis and Seattle, and that'll fix things a bit because the expansion draft for the 2 teams are going to clear a lot of the good players, or they're going to clear depth from a lot of these teams.
True.
And I think we're at that point where maybe we're ready for that. I'm not like, I went from I was so invested in the Warriors first off, not a front runner, but I was invested in the Warriors and their story. And going back in that Bill Simmons podcast about Game 7 in the 2016 final.
The Book of Basketball?
And, yeah. And,
are you enjoying that, by the way?
And I actually really am. I didn't think I was going to like it, but they're very prepared for it. He brings out good guests to talk it. Mm-hmm. I like going back over these games. It's going to be fun when he gets to the Heat and that game against the Spurs, Game 6 or whatever.
Oh, Lord.
But it's got to be coming. It's got to be coming.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
But I think that I remember that Game 7 destroying me. And I wasn't even a Warriors fan, but I was sick to my stomach that the narrative of a 73-win team didn't get the finale. But then that led to Kevin Durant coming. And then you get to the point, they fell off a cliff this year, and they'll probably be okay next year. They'll almost be reminiscent to me of the Heat after LeBron left, where they were great players, but they were a little over the hill prime-wise. And so they weren't, if it had happened like 4 years younger with these guys, like if Wade could have been like 4 or 5 years younger, they would have had a better shot, but they were a little bit on the other side of the hill. But it's just too much. I don't know what to watch. What does it matter? What does the?
I mean, there is parity though. There is some parity. I mean, that was the thing we were talking about coming in the year, was that finally for the first time since '94 we'll have real parity. There's no real one team front runner. Like Clippers are the favorites, yeah, but not Oklahoma favorites. Lakers aren't favorites. You know, we have all these teams. I mean, in case like 8 teams go to the finals this year.
Yeah, I know, but the feeling I get, it stopped mattering this year.
No,
maybe it'll pick up as these narratives build again.
You got a point.
But like Kawhi Leonard ended the dynasty of the Heat. He ended the dynasty of the Warriors, and he ended the dynasty of the NBA.
Yeah. Hey.
Like, yeah, he didn't even. He either did realize he was doing it or he didn't. You know, I just watched this Ted Bundy serial killer documentary.
Yeah, which one did you see? Which one?
The tapes, the interview tapes or whatever.
On Netflix? That was great. I love those. That was better than the movie itself.
Oh, my God. It was alarming. It was alarming.
Very scary.
How much you could get away with.
My wife and I watched that months ago, but we loved it.
I love the part where he breaks out of jail for the second time.
Yep.
And Michigan because he wants to see Washington play Michigan in Ann Arbor.
So fucking weird, isn't it? I mean, the mind was serial killer.
Alma mater.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And then he's like, "I'll go to Florida because it's on the other side of the country from the Pacific Northwest."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "I'll be cool," and he would have got away with it, but he's like, "I have to kill all these people." Sorry. But that's like Kawhi. I have to get as far away from, like, Kawhi bludgeoned the NBA, and he was allowed to, and he telegraphed it. He said that's why the Spurs didn't keep him, because he's like, I'm going home. He telegraphed it, so I'm not blaming him. But he kind of broke the NBA. He kind of did, like, his pathological serial killer move, and then he's like, yeah, Paul, get yourself out of your contract. You know, let's go over here and let's just stack the deck over here. Now, granted, imagine if he went to the Lakers. Holy crap.
Thank God he didn't.
So he didn't go there. It's fine. And look, dude, the Raptors, even though they lose 3 of their players last night, but the Raptors were still really good still. So that's interesting. Where the problem is Siakam might be out a while, Gasol, and then I guess Powell, right? But
yeah,
if those guys are back, like, it's interesting that the Raptors could try to avenge a title without Kawhi, and maybe they'll add someone. That's interesting. Like, who could they add? Like, that would be really neat. So it's been fun to see them rise up. Like, I was kind of comparing the NBA to college basketball now, because that's how it feels. The turnover year by year is as stark as college basketball is. There are teams that keep players, but they're usually not the elite, because the elite have to change in and out of players. The Raptors are like the one-and-done team who won the championship, like with Carmelo Anthony, but then the remnants of the rest of the team is still there after Carmelo Anthony moves on. And then Siakam is like the guy who was really good with Carmelo and then takes the next step, in like year 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the rising, sophomore or whatever. He gets really good. You're like, oh, he was there too. But I just think it's in a position where there was too much, and it will settle. It's just too much. I mean, we're more than a quarter into the season, and I'm still watching the little TVs on YouTube TV going, why should I watch Memphis, Atlanta again? I got to think about it. I shouldn't have to think about it.
And you love basketball.
Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't watch it. I love basketball. I love John Morant.
Yeah.
That I should know. Last night, it's obvious, right? Lakers, Bucks. Obvious. Clippers, Rockets. Pretty obvious, even though I don't love watching the Rockets.
Oh, I can't stand watching the Rockets, dude. Can't stand it.
I mean, against a good team, it's interesting. But, like, when I did that look on the weekend, that's where it hit me. I was like, oh, my God. Between that Saturday and that Sunday, there were 14 games, and one of them was a must-watch, and that was your Heat playing Dallas, and that became not a must-watch after Luka Doncic hurts himself in the game.
Yeah. Thank God we won that game, though. Stole that game.
One game over a weekend is all that really matters. That is such a problem for the league. You can call it parity. You can call it whatever. But that's the problem. I have the package. I love the game. And I'm only excited to watch one of 14 games. That is really bad.
Do you think maybe by February, March, when football's over and in the rearview mirror and we're down to this basketball and whatnot, that maybe you'll feel a little better?
I hope so. I feel like I'm in like a 60 minutes where I have to like hold the answer and let the silence kick in. I hope so. I mean, but that's how I always think I'm going to feel about college basketball too. Like I should be watching all the games right now, but I'll really start sort of watching them in February. I might watch like the Saturday CBS. I might watch like a big Fox game. I might watch a game that has obvious ranked teams. But I always still just kick it in March.
Yeah,
and I kick it myself because
I come to the point now. I've become honest with myself now that I used to love college basketball growing up. I just can't get into it like I used to. Like I mean, obviously when February March comes around, of course I'm in tournaments, whatever. But during the year, a lot of it has to do also with the NBA taking all the oxygen out of the room anyway. So by nature, I wasn't NBA with college anyway. But when I was a kid, I used to watch college like it was nothing, and now it's like it's a chore to watch it, and I just don't watch it anymore. I just follow on ESPN what's going on, who's the hot name, the hot teams, and just try to stay pace with what's going on with the top teams, and then go from there.
Well, like last year it was obvious. You had the super team and Duke, and you knew Zion and R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish, and so that was like that was an event. You were going to watch their games, and then when you watched their games, whoever they were playing, you were going to then by extension be watching those games too. And then if they played North Carolina, you're like, oh, boom, here's like 3 more NBA players I can watch in this game. But, my friend Matt O'Daniels, who I always have on for college, I envy his ability to let your mind go and then to watch like a Tuesday MAC game in football. This guy watches every damn college football and college basketball game. He loves the game so hard that's why I love having him on.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this: Is he married? Is he married with kids?
No, he's a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah. Well, the thing is,
he's not. But but even with that, I do think that makes us less open to experience and much less open to just like time. Which I always do yearn for that sometimes.
But that's it. Though. I used to be Matt Daniels before I had wife and kids. I can't do that. Even if I wanted to, I can't. So,
right. Well, you know what it is too. I'm not as like interested in knowing everything.
Yeah, me neither.
My mind is shot.
Yeah, my
like we could have 2 screens on and be fine, but you're like, what's the point? Yeah. And I actually find that I glean more by skimming around than I do by fully watching. I don't like people who scout things by fully watching and like knowing everything. I like skimming around for narratives that tie together lots of things.
Yeah.
And one thing I always thought was interesting when I heard Skip Bayless, I heard that the way he comes up with his arguments, he doesn't even really watch the games. He just watches SportsCenter. And then the main thing SportsCenter is talking about, he comes up with like one argument off of each major thing they talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And people could go, oh, that's lazy or whatever. No. He's gleaning the most important things, and he's reacting in the moment. If you get too deep in the weeds, all of a sudden, no one wants to hear a know-it-all. They want to hear somebody who's leaving some room for their own mind to expand with it.
That's true. That's so true.
To even say, oh, no, you'll hear a host go, what the heck was that? What was that movie? That was, and case in point, that's why I just named an episode that. I named the Christmas movie with Lester Nygaard. Because it's like the part of an episode, I'm like, what the hell was that movie? It was a Christmas movie. It was Lester, the guy who plays Lester Nygaard in Fargo. And people like that because they listen. They're like, Love Actually. And you're like, what was it?
Yeah. And by the way, too, also, you talk about how basketball you're getting selective now on certain games to watch. I gotta tell you, I have to admit this also too. This year became really prevalent for me. I'm becoming that way with the NFL now. Like, all of a sudden, I'm not watching every game. All of a sudden, I'm being selective. Like, I'm okay with 1 o'clock red zone, but 4 o'clock, I've been tuning out lately. I don't think I've watched an entire Sunday Night Football game the entire season.
Yeah, and
Monday nights has been.
I've said it also fixed. Yeah, I never watch the standalone games.
Unless
like,
the Giants,
I can't tell you the last
unless
one
the Giants, if the Giants are on, or it's a huge game.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just not really. I'm not doing that as much.
I'm not there either.
I think what also fixed it is Primetime being back.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so glad you said that because that sort of lately has been the thing I've gone to catch up on my scores. Like, I know what happens, but the highlights I was watching on Primetime like I used to as a kid. When back then, before we had on demand, I'm back to that place where I was when I was 12 years old, watching Primetime. Oh, I missed the Rams and Cardinals. Oh, we'll see on Primetime later on. We'll see what will happen. You know what I mean? I'm at that place
covered. Yeah.
It's so
and
great.
nobody breaks the game down. Like the mix that happens in that, they get you feel like you've experienced the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I watch football highlights anywhere else, I don't feel like I don't feel like I gleaned what happened in the game.
Mm-hmm.
The way Chris Berman narrates a highlight is just so good, and then the music, and then like they tie it together so well. It's like the same thing. When I try to catch up on basketball sometimes, I'll watch like the NBA TV highlights. I lose them all the time because they're like bored. They're not doing a good job telling you what's happening, like what highlight you're seeing, why it's important. I'm trying to look down at the score real quick to see what the score is when they're doing the highlight. There's no context or continuity, even though they're giving you everything. Whereas sometimes you throw on SportsCenter will only show you like 3 highlights, but it was the most important ones. But then the other problem with SportsCenter is it's like, wait, why are they showing me all this college basketball? Because that's their contract.
Yeah,
so
yeah, exactly.
Like, oh.
No, I don't think ESPN realized what they did by bringing it back. They actually did people like us a favor because, again, this is the first time in ever probably where I'm like I know what's going on. I am plugged into to a degree of the season, but I'm not as plugged in as I used to be, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with missing a game. Like in the past, like even 5 years ago, if I go at 4 o'clock and missed a game I wanted to watch, I'll be pissed off about it. Like, damn, I want to be home watching the game. Now I go out somewhere and I'm okay with it. I'll catch it later on.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. In the grand scheme, it doesn't matter, really.
It's there when it happens.
Even Giants games, too, some degrees well.
Well, you just don't have – there's no time to kill anymore.
Right.
That's the biggest issue. Sports is about killing time, and I just don't have time to kill.
No.
And so it has to be very – It has to be very important, and I will plug in when it's important. And the playoffs I'll plug in when it's important.
And by the way,
and I'll glean everything I need from them.
Oh, and by the way, also, I actually use my sports time, like watching football and basketball. Like if my wife isn't home, I use that time to catch my podcast. Like I'll play my podcast and have the volume down on the football games and play a podcast in the background. So I use that as an efficiency.
I do a lot of reading and schoolwork and all that. It's just. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it gets tough. getting older gets a little tough. That's why people turn 70 before they know it, because it's like you're doing too much stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
I agree.
Okay. That's how you get old. Yeah. That's good. Good to be busier than not, I guess.
Exactly. Anyway, great pod. Went an hour and a half today.
Oh, my God.
What's tonight?
Yeah,
dude.
I had like 20
1 a.m. Almost 1 a.m. Oh, you still in your car?
Yeah, I just got out of my car and I'm walking into my house, and hopefully there's not bears.
How cold is there?
I live in. It is. Let's see, 15 degrees.
Are you serious? Wow.
Yeah, it's freezing.
Meanwhile, here it is
Totally.
73 degrees right now.
Oh my God, that is wild.
Tale of two locations. Anyway, Matt, we'll talk soon.
60-degree difference.
Yeah, a big difference. We will talk soon. Great pod as always, and great conversation as always, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Take care. All right.
You got it.
Yeah, man, take care.
All right.